Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the last human world burn. The golden aliens had come from the far side of the galaxy 6 months ago. They called themselves the Zephyrian Empire. Their ships were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons could destroy entire planets with one shot. Lisa pressed her hand against the cold metal wall of the bridge. Her ship was called the Terran's Pride. It was the last human warship still fighting. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations. Their faces were pale and tired. They had been fighting for so long. Commander Grant said her communications. "Officer, we're getting a signal from the alien flagship." Lisa nodded. She had been waiting for this moment. The Zephyrian king wanted to talk. She had seen what happened to worlds that refused to listen to him. They became clouds of dust floating in space. "Put it on the main screen," Lisa said. The screen flickered to life. A tall figure appeared on it. The alien king had golden skin that seemed to glow with its own light. His eyes were like burning coals. When he spoke, his voice was deep and powerful. "I am King Vistar of the Zephyrian Empire," he said. "You have fought well, humans, but your resistance ends now." Lisa stepped forward. She wore the blue uniform of the human colonial fleet. Her medals caught the light from the screen. She had earned each one in battles across human space. Now, they felt heavy on her chest. "What do you want?" she asked. The king smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I want you to surrender. Your people have 2 choices. Join my empire as warriors, or die like the others." Lisa looked around the bridge. Her crew was watching her. They trusted her to make the right choice. But what was the right choice when both options meant the end of human freedom? "How do we know you'll keep your word?" Lisa asked. "Because I need warriors," the king said. "Your people fight differently than mine. You use tricks and plans that my enemies don't expect. You will help me conquer new worlds." Lisa felt sick. The king wanted humans to help him destroy other races. He wanted to turn them into weapons for his empire. But the alternative was death for everyone. Captain Jake Morrison stepped up beside her. He was her oldest friend in the fleet. They had trained together at the academy. They had fought side by side in the colonial wars. "Lisa," he whispered, "we could make one last run at their flagship. Go out fighting." Lisa looked at him. Jake's face was hard, but she could see the fear in his eyes. Not fear of dying, but fear of what would happen to their people if they failed. "And then what?" she whispered back. "They'll still kill everyone on the colony ships, the civilians, the children. All of them." Jake's shoulders sagged. He knew she was right. Lisa turned back to the screen. The alien king was waiting. Behind him, she could see the inside of his ship. It was huge and filled with golden light. She could see other aliens moving around. They all looked like warriors. "If we surrender," Lisa said, "what happens to our people?" "They will serve the empire," the king said. "The strong will become soldiers. The weak will work in our factories and farms. All will live under my protection." Lisa closed her eyes. Protection. That was what the king called slavery. But it was still life. Her people would still exist, even if they were not free. "Commander," said her weapons officer, "the colony ships are requesting orders. They want to know if they should run." Lisa opened her eyes. She looked at the tactical display. 30 colony ships hung in space near her position. Each one carried 10,000 people. Families, children, old people. All the humans who had managed to escape the burning worlds. The Zephyrian fleet surrounded them. Hundreds of golden ships, each one the size of a small city. Their weapons were already charged and ready to fire. The colony ships had no chance of escape. "Commander Grant," the king said, "you have 1 minute to decide. Surrender, or watch her people die. Lisa looked at her crew one more time. They were good people. They had followed her through hell and back. They deserved better than this. All humans deserved better than this. But sometimes there was no good choice. Sometimes you had to choose between bad and worse. "Signal the fleet," Lisa said quietly. "All ships stand down. Power down weapons and shields." The bridge went silent. Lisa could hear the hum of the ship's engines, the beep of computers, the sound of her own heartbeat. "Are you surrendering?" the king asked. Lisa straightened her shoulders. She was still. A commander in the human colonial fleet. She would act like one until the end. "Yes," she said. "I surrender the human fleet to your empire. But I want your word that our people will not be harmed." The king nodded. "You have my word. Your people will serve the empire well." The screen went dark. Lisa stood in the sudden silence of the bridge. She had just ended human independence with a single word. Her people would live, but they would never be free again. "Send the surrender codes to all ships," she said. "Tell them to prepare for boarding." As her crew carried out her orders, Lisa walked to the viewport. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, other races were fighting for their freedom. Soon, humans would be coming to take that freedom away. She pressed her hand against the glass and made a silent promise. Someday, somehow, she would find a way to make this right. 6 months had passed since the surrender. Lisa Grant stood in her new quarters aboard the Zephyrian flagship. She wore golden armor now, the same color as her alien masters. The metal felt cold against her skin, even after all this time. She was no longer Commander Grant of the human colonial fleet. Now she was Warrior Prime Grant, leader of all human forces in the Zephyrian Empire. The title felt like a chain around her neck. Lisa walked to the mirror on her wall. The person looking back at her was a stranger. The golden armor made her look like one of them. But her eyes were still human. They still held the anger she tried to hide. A chime sounded at her door. "Enter," she said. Jake Morrison walked in. He wore the silver armor of a unit commander. His face was thinner than before, and there were new lines around his eyes. The past 6 months had been hard on all of them. "The king wants to see you," Jake said. "Right away," Lisa nodded. She had been expecting this call. The Empire was planning a new invasion, and they would need human forces to lead it. "How are the troops?" she asked as they walked through the ship's corridors. "Alive," Jake said. "That's about all I can say. The new recruits are having trouble adjusting." Lisa knew what he meant. The Zephyrians had been taking humans from the new colony ships and training them as soldiers. Young men and women who should have been starting families or learning trades were now carrying weapons for an alien empire. They passed a group of human soldiers in the hallway. The soldiers saluted Lisa as she went by. She returned the salute, but it felt wrong. These people were looking at her like she was their leader, their protector. But she was just another prisoner in golden armor. The throne room was at the heart of the ship. It was a huge space filled with golden light. The walls were covered with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Lisa had learned they were records of the Empire's victories. Each symbol represented a world that had fallen to the Zephyrian fleet. King Vextar sat on his throne at the far end of the room. He was even bigger than Lisa remembered. His golden skin seemed to pulse with inner fire. His eyes tracked her as she approached. "Warrior Prime Grant," he said. His voice echoed in the huge space. "You have done well these past months. Your people make excellent soldiers." Lisa stopped at the proper distance from the throne. She knew the rules now. Too close, and the king's guards would stun her. Too far, and he would think she was showing disrespect. "Thank you, my lord," she said. The words tasted like poison in her mouth. I have a new mission for you, the king said. The Korthic hegemony has been a thorn in our side for too long. It is time to remove it. Lisa felt her heart sink. She had studied the Korthic worlds during her time as a prisoner. They were a group of reptilian races that had joined together to fight the Empire. They had been holding out for over a century. The Korthic are experienced fighters, Lisa said carefully. They know how to fight your forces, which is why I need your people to lead the attack, the king said. They have never fought humans before. Your tactics will surprise them. The king waved his hand, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed the Korthic home system. Lisa counted 12 planets, 3 of them heavily populated. The tactical data made her stomach turn. The main assault will be on Korthic Prime, the king continued. Your human forces will drop directly onto the planet's surface. You will take the capital city and break their will to fight. Lisa studied the display. The casualty projections were horrible. The humans would be landing on a heavily defended world with no air support and limited supplies. Half of them would die in the first week. My lord, she said, perhaps we could consider a different approach. A siege might be more effective with fewer losses. The king's eyes narrowed. A temperature in the room seemed to drop. Are you questioning my orders, Warrior Prime? Lisa felt the weight of the guards' attention. She could see them reaching for their weapons. One wrong word, and she would be dead. No, my lord, she said. I was merely suggesting ways to ensure victory. Victory is certain, the king said. The only question is how many of your people will die achieving it. That is your concern, not mine. Lisa bowed her head. Of course, my lord. When do we begin? The fleet moves in 3 days, the king said. You will have 30,000 human soldiers for the assault. Make sure they are ready. Lisa saluted and turned to leave. As she walked away, she heard the king's voice behind her. Remember, Warrior Prime, you swore an oath to serve the Empire faithfully. I trust you will not forget that oath. Lisa kept walking until she was outside the throne room. Then she stopped and leaned against the wall. Her hands were shaking. She looked at them, encased in golden armor, and felt sick. Jake was waiting for her in the corridor. He took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. Bad news? He asked. The worst, Lisa said. Korthic Prime. Full assault. 30,000. Troops. Jake's face went pale. That's a death sentence. I know, Lisa said, but we don't have a choice. They walked back toward the human quarters in silence. Around them, the ship hummed with activity. Zephyrian soldiers moved through the corridors, their golden armor gleaming. They looked confident, victorious. They had never known defeat. Lisa, Jake said quietly, how long can we keep doing this? Lisa looked at him. Jake had been her friend for 20 years. He had never asked her a question like that before. As long as we have to, she said. As long as our people are still alive. But inside, she was asking herself the same question. How long could they keep sending human soldiers to die for an empire that saw them as tools? How long could she keep wearing the golden armor and pretending to serve? They reached her quarters, and Jake went to gather the unit commanders. They would need to plan the assault, choose which soldiers would go, and prepare for another battle. They didn't want to fight. Lisa stood at her window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Korthic were preparing to defend their homes. Soon, human soldiers would be coming to take everything away from them. She pressed her hand against the glass and made the same promise she had made 6 months ago. Someday, somehow, she would find a way to make this right. But first, she had to keep her people alive long enough to find that way. The drop pods fell through the atmosphere of Korthic Prime like burning stars. Lisa Grant was in the lead pod, watching the planet grow larger through the small window. The surface was covered with purple forests and silver cities. It would have been beautiful if she wasn't about to destroy it. 2 minutes to landing, came the voice of the pilot. Lisa could hear the fear in his voice. They all knew this was a suicide mission. Lisa checked her weapon one last time. It was a Zephyrian plasma rifle, more powerful than anything humans had ever built. But it felt wrong in her hands. She had been trained to protect people, not to conquer them. "Remember the plan," she said into her unit. "We take the government buildings first. Then we secure the communication centers. Stay together and watch each other's backs." 30,000 human soldiers were falling toward the planet in pods just like hers. Most of them were young, barely out of training. They had never seen real combat before. Many of them would not live to see tomorrow. The pod hit the ground with a crash that rattled Lisa's teeth. She kicked open the door and rolled out, her weapon ready. Around her, more pods were landing like metal rain. The Korthik were waiting for them. Lisa had studied their files during the flight to their system. They were reptilian humanoids with natural armor on their skin. They were strong, fast, and they had been fighting the Zephyrian Empire for over 100 years. They knew how to fight, and they knew how to die. Plasma bolts flew through the air as the battle began. Lisa dove behind a piece of wreckage from her pod and returned fire. A Korthik soldier charged at her, his claws extended. She shot him twice. In the chest, and he fell. "Squad leaders, report in," she called over the cone. "Alpha Squad, taking heavy fire. Beta Squad, half strength and pinned down. Charlie Squad, we've lost contact with Delta." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. It was starting just like she had feared. The Korthik had turned every street into a trap, every building into a fortress. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their freedom. They would not give up easily. "Jake, where are you?" she called. "North side of the landing zone," came Jake's voice. "We're trying to reach the government building, but they have the whole area locked down." Lisa looked at her tactical display. The human forces were scattered across the city, taking heavy casualties. If they didn't move fast, they would be wiped out before they could complete their mission. "All units, advance by squads," she ordered. "Use the buildings for cover. Don't try to be heroes. Just stay alive." For the next 3 hours, Lisa led her troops through the streets of the Korthik capital. The enemy fought them at every corner, from every window, from every rooftop. The purple sky was filled with smoke and the sound of weapons fire. Lisa lost count of how many Korthik she killed. Each one was someone's child, someone's parent, someone's friend. But they kept coming at her, and she kept firing back. It was kill or be killed. "Commander Grant," came a voice on her comm. It was Lieutenant Amy Brooks, one of her youngest officers. "We've reached the government building, but there are civilians inside." Lisa felt her heart stop. What kind of civilians? "Families," Amy said. "Old people, children. They're hiding in the lower levels." Lisa closed her eyes. This was what she had been afraid of. The Korthik government was using their own people as shields, but the mission was clear. Take the building, no matter what. "Surround the building," Lisa ordered. "Don't let anyone escape, but don't hurt the civilians unless you have to." She made her way to the government building, fighting through 3 more Korthik defensive positions. By the time she arrived, the sun was setting. The golden armor of her human soldiers was covered with dust and blood. The government building was a tall structure made of silver metal. It looked like a twisted spear pointing at the sky. Lisa could see Korthik soldiers in the windows, their weapons aimed at her forces. "They're not going to surrender," Jake said. He had a bandage on his arm where a plasma bolt had grazed him. "They'd rather die than give up." Then we'll have to go in and get them, Lisa said. The assault on the building took 2 hours. Lisa led her soldiers floor by floor, room by room. The Korthik fought with desperate courage, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. One by one they fell. Lisa found the Korthik leader on the top floor. He was an old reptilian with scars covering his armored skin. He stood behind his desk, a ceremonial sword in his hands. "You fight well, human," he said in broken English. "But you fight for the wrong side." "I fight to keep my people alive," Lisa said. "And I fight to keep mine free," the old Korthik replied. "We are not so different." He charged at her with the sword. Lisa shot him once, and he fell. As he died, he looked at her with eyes full of sadness. "You could have been heroes," he whispered. "Instead, you choose to be slaves." Lisa stared at the body for a moment. Then she activated her comm unit. "Government building secured," she reported. Moving to Phase 2. The battle for the capital city lasted 3 weeks. Lisa's forces fought street by street, building by building. The Korthik never gave up, never surrendered. They fought until the last defender fell. When it was over, Lisa stood in the ruins of the city center. Smoke rose from 100 fires. The silver buildings were blackened and broken. The purple trees were burned and twisted. Jake found her there, staring at the destruction. "Casualty report," he said quietly. "Tell me," Lisa said. 12,000 dead, 8,000 wounded. We started with 30,000. Lisa felt the number hit her like a physical blow. 12,000 human soldiers, dead for an empire that saw them as tools. 12,000 families who would never see their loved ones again. "And the Korthik?" she asked. "The city is ours," Jake said. "But the cost, ... Lisa turned away from the ruins. She had won the battle, but it felt like defeat. She had kept her oath to the king, but at what price? That night, she sat in her temporary command post and wrote letters to the families of the dead. She had written thousands of such letters during the colonial wars, but these were different. These soldiers had died as slaves, not as free humans fighting for their homes. When she finished the letters, she opened her personal comm unit. It was a small device, almost invisible. She had hidden it in her armor months ago, and the Zephyrians had never found it. She composed a message and sent it to a coded frequency. It was a signal that would reach the hidden resistance cells scattered throughout human space. The message was simple. "The oath is broken. It's time to remember who we are." Lisa looked out at the burning city one more time. Then she began to plan. The king thought he had broken her with his missions of conquest, but he had only made her remember what she was fighting for. She was still a human, and humans did not stay slaves forever. Lisa Grant stood in the private chambers of King Vextar, but this time she was not wearing her golden armor. She was in restraints, her hands bound behind her back with energy shackles that burned her wrists. 2 Zephyrian guards flanked her, their weapons ready. The king was not on his throne. He stood by a large window that looked out at the stars. His golden skin seemed darker than usual, and when he turned to face her, his eyes burned with cold anger. "Warrior Prime Grant," he said, his voice quiet and deadly. "Or should I say former Warrior Prime Grant?" Lisa kept her face blank. She had known this day would come. The king's spies were everywhere, and her coded messages to the resistance had been too risky. But she had needed to try. "You are disappointed in my service, my lord?" she asked. The king walked closer to her. Each step echoed in the large chamber. "Do not play games with me, human. I know about your messages. I know about your resistance cells. I know about your plans to break the oath you swore to me." Lisa felt her heart racing, but she kept her voice steady. "I have fulfilled my oath. I led your forces to victory on Korthik Prime. I have done everything you asked." You have done what I commanded with your actions, the king said. But your heart has been plotting against me. You think I am a fool? You think I do not watch my tools? The king stopped in front of her. He was so tall that she had to look up to meet his eyes. The hatred in them was like looking into the heart of a star. I trusted you, he said. I could have killed your entire species. Instead, I gave you a chance to serve something greater than your small, dying race. And this is how you repay me. Lisa straightened her shoulders. I have served you faithfully for 8 months. I have led your battles. I have won your victories. But I cannot watch my people die for an empire that sees them as nothing more than weapons. Your people? The king laughed, and the sound was like breaking glass. You have no people. You are my warriors now. You belong to the empire. We will never belong to you, Lisa said. You can kill us, you can chain us, you can dress us in your golden armor. But we will always be human. The king's eyes narrowed. Is that what you believe? That you are still free in your minds? He walked to his desk and picked up a small device. It looked like a crystal, but it pulsed with inner light. When he activated it, a holographic display appeared in the air. Lisa saw the faces of humans. She knew. Resistance leaders, hidden base commanders, civilian organizers. Men and women who had risked everything to keep the hope of freedom alive. I have been watching your resistance for months, the king said. Every hideout, every safe house, every escape route. Your people thought they were clever, but they were simply mice in a maze I built for them. Lisa felt her blood turn to ice. You know about all of them? Every single one, the king confirmed. And now, because of your betrayal, they will all die. Not quickly, not cleanly. They will die slowly, as an example to any other humans who think they can defy the empire. The hologram changed, showing Zephyrian forces surrounding human hideouts. Lisa watched in horror as the attacks began. She saw people she had known for years, good people who had only wanted to be free, cut down by alien weapons. Stop, she whispered. Please, they're innocent. There are no innocents in rebellion, the king said. Only traitors and those who harbor them. Lisa sank to her knees. The energy shackles burned her wrists, but she barely felt the pain. She had tried to save her people, and instead she had doomed them. Every death was her fault. But I am not without mercy, the king continued. I will not execute you, Lisa Grant. That would be too simple. Instead, you will live. You will watch as I hunt down every human who dared to dream of freedom. You will see the cost of your defiance. Lisa looked up at him. Why? Why not just kill me? Because death would be a release, the king said. You will live with the knowledge that your rebellion killed the very people you tried to save. You will carry that weight for the rest of your life. A king walked back to his window. Take her to the holding cells, he told the guards. Make sure she has a good view of the execution decks. As the guards lifted her to her feet, Lisa felt something break inside her. Not her will, not her spirit, but something deeper. She had been a leader, a protector, a warrior. Now she was just another prisoner, watching her people die because of her choices. One more thing, the king said without turning around. Your friend Jake Morrison. He was one of the resistance leaders, wasn't he? Lisa's heart stopped. He was following my orders. He's not responsible. He will be the first to die, the king said. I want you to watch. The guards dragged her from the chamber. Lisa did not resist. There was no point. She had played her hand and lost. Now all she could do was watch the consequences of her failure. They put her in a cell with a window that looked out onto the ship's main deck. It was there that the king held his public executions, where he showed the price of defying the empire. Lisa sat on the metal floor and stared out at the empty deck. Soon, Jake would be there. Her oldest friend, the man who had followed her into hell because he trusted her judgment. He would die because she had been too proud to accept slavery. Hours passed. Lisa did not move from the window. She watched Zephyrian. Soldiers set up the execution platform. She watched them test the weapons that would kill her friend. She watched them polish the golden throne where the king would sit to watch Jake die. When they brought Jake out, he looked up at her window. Even from a distance, she could see him smile. It was a sad smile, but it was still real. He was not afraid. He was not broken. He was still the man she had known for 20 years. The king took his place on the throne. The entire ship's crew was there to watch. It was meant to be a lesson, a warning to anyone who thought they could defy the Empire. Lisa pressed her hands against the glass. She wanted to scream, to break down the walls, to save her friend, but she was helpless. She could only watch. Jake stood straight and tall on the platform. When they asked if he had any last words, he looked up at Lisa's window and spoke loud. Enough for her to hear. "Tell them we tried," he said. "Tell them we remembered who we were." The execution was quick. One moment Jake was standing there, and the next he was gone. Lisa watched her oldest friend die and felt something inside her die with him. But in that moment of despair, she also felt something else. Jake's last words echoed in her mind. "Tell them we tried. Tell them we remembered who we were." The king thought he had broken her. He thought he had shown her the cost of defiance. But he had made a mistake. He had shown her that there were still humans willing to die for freedom. He had shown her that the spirit of her people was not broken. Lisa wiped the tears from her eyes and looked out at the stars. The king had won this battle, but the war was not over. He had taken everything from her, but he had also given her something precious. He had given her a reason to fight that had nothing to do with hope or victory. He had given her a reason to fight that was built on loss and grief and the memory of a friend who had died rather than kneel. Lisa Grant sat in her cell and began to plan. The king thought he had broken her with a single strike, but he had only made her remember what she was fighting for. She was still human, and humans did not stay slaves forever. Lisa Grant had been in the holding cell for 3 days when the alarm started. At first, she thought it was just another drill. The Zephyrian Empire was always testing its defenses, always preparing for the next war. But these alarms were different. They were not the steady tone of a drill. They were the sharp, urgent wail of real danger. Lisa pressed her face to the window of her cell. She could see Zephyrian soldiers running through the corridors. Their movements were not organized. They looked confused, even frightened. What's happening? She called to the guard outside her cell. The guard, a young Zephyrian with nervous eyes, looked at her. "System failures," he said. "Communications are down. Navigation is offline. Even the weapon systems are acting strange." Lisa felt her heart begin to race. System failures were not uncommon on any ship. But multiple failures at once meant something else. It meant sabotage. During her months of service to the Empire, Lisa had learned about Zephyrian technology. She had studied their systems, their networks, their weaknesses. She had pretended to be a loyal warrior, but she had been planning all along. The malware she had planted in the ship's systems had been designed to look like random errors. Small glitches that would spread slowly through the network, hiding in the background until she activated them. She had never expected to use it from a prison cell, but she had built a backdoor into the system, a way to trigger the malware using her personal communication device, the same device she had used to send messages to the Resistance. Lisa reached into her boot and pulled out the tiny communicator. The guards had searched her, but they had missed the device hidden in the sole of her shoe. It was smaller than her thumb and looked like a piece of metal. She activated the device and sent a single code, a sequence of numbers that would tell the malware to begin its work. The lights in her cell flickered, and they went out completely. Emergency lighting came on, casting everything in red shadows. Lisa could hear the guard outside her cell cursing. In the Zephyrian language, she could hear other guards shouting in the distance. Lisa smiled for the first time in days. The malware was working better than she had hoped. The Zephyrian systems were so connected, so dependent on each other, that a failure in one area caused failures everywhere else. The lock on her cell door made a soft click. Lisa pushed against it, and it swung open. The electronic systems that controlled the prison were down. She was free. She stepped out of the cell and looked at the guard. He was trying to use his communication device, but it was dead. All the Zephyrian technology was failing at once. "Sorry," Lisa said as she hit him with a piece of metal from her cell. The guard went down hard. Lisa took his weapon and his access cards. Then she made her way through the ship's corridors. The emergency lighting made everything look like a nightmare. Zephyrian soldiers stumbled around in the darkness, trying to make sense of what was happening. Lisa had memorized the layout of the ship during her time as a prisoner. She knew where she needed to go. The communication center was on the middle deck, near the king's private chambers dot. As she moved through the ship, Lisa could see the full extent of the system failures. Life support was flickering on and off. Gravity was weak in some sections, and too strong in others. The ship's engines were making strange noises, but the most important failure was in the communication systems. The Zephyrian Empire controlled the galaxy through instant communication between their ships and planets. Without that communication, the Empire was just a collection of isolated forces. Lisa reached the communication center and found it in chaos. Zephyrian technicians were trying to repair the damage, but they did not understand what was happening. They thought it was equipment failure. They did not realize it was an attack. Lisa shot the guards at the door and entered the communication center. The technicians looked at her in surprise. They had no idea who she was or how she had gotten free. "Step away from the controls," Lisa said. The technicians hesitated. Lisa shot one of them in the leg. The others quickly moved away from their stations. Lisa sat down at the main communication console. Her fingers flew over the controls, accessing systems that she had studied for months. The malware had damaged the Zephyrian networks, but the basic communication equipment still worked. She sent a signal on a frequency that only humans would recognize. It was a coded message that would reach resistance cells throughout the galaxy. The message was simple. "This is Lisa Grant. The Empire's communication network is down. The time is now. Rise up." As her message spread through space, Lisa heard footsteps in the corridor. King Vextar was coming, along with his personal guards. They had finally realized what was happening. Lisa barricaded the door of the communication center and kept working. She accessed the ship's sensor array and began broadcasting on every frequency she could find. Her message went out to human resistance, cells to hidden bases, to anyone who might still be fighting. The door exploded inward. King Vextar stood in the smoking doorway, his golden skin glowing with rage. His personal guards surrounded him, their weapons aimed at Lisa. "What have you done?" The king roared. Lisa stood up slowly, her hands raised, but she was smiling. "I kept my promise to my friend. I told them we tried. I told them we remembered who we were." The king stepped into the room. His eyes were like burning coals. "You have destroyed nothing. This ship will be repaired. The Empire will continue." "Will it?" Lisa asked. She gestured to the communication console. "Look at your screens. Tell me what you see." The king looked at the displays. His face went pale. The screens showed dozens of Zephyrian ships throughout the galaxy. All of them were dark. All of them were drifting helplessly in space. Your empire depends on technology, Lisa said. Connected systems, instant communication, coordinated fleets. But every ship, every base, every command center uses the same network protocols. The same systems I learned to hack during my months of service. The king's hands were shaking. This is impossible. Our security systems would have detected any intrusion. They did detect intrusions, Lisa said. Thousands of them. Small glitches, minor errors, routine maintenance problems. Your technicians ignored them because they looked normal. But they were all connected. They were all part of the same program. On the screens, new signals began to appear. Human ships emerging from hidden bases throughout the galaxy. Ships that the Zephyrians thought they had destroyed months ago. Ships that had been waiting for this moment. You see, Lisa continued, humans are good at hiding. We're good at pretending to be defeated while we plan our revenge. And we're very, very good at learning from our enemies. The king raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the ship shuddered. Lisa looked at the displays and saw human fighters attacking the Zephyrian flagship. The ship's defenses were down, its weapons offline. Your empire is falling, Lisa said, ship by ship, planet by planet. Your forces can't coordinate without their communication networks. Your weapons can't fire without their targeting systems. Your ships can't navigate without their computers. The king's guards were looking at their own weapons with confusion. The plasma rifles were flickering, their power levels dropping. Even their personal equipment was affected by the system failures. This changes nothing, the king said, but his voice was not as strong as before. We will rebuild. We will adapt. Maybe, Lisa said, but you'll never trust your technology the same way again. You'll always wonder if the next system failure is natural or if it's another human trick. You'll spend so much time watching for sabotage that you won't have time to expand your empire. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Lisa could hear explosions in the distance. The human attack was succeeding. Besides, Lisa added, rebuilding takes time. And while you're trying to fix your empire, human ships will be spreading throughout the galaxy. We'll be warning other races about you. We'll be teaching them how to fight you. You won't be conquering helpless civilizations anymore. You'll be facing prepared enemies. The king looked around the room like a trapped animal. His great empire, built on fear and superior technology, was crumbling around him. And it had been brought down not by a massive fleet or a powerful weapon, but by a single human with a small piece of hidden code. You cannot defeat the entire empire, he said, desperately. There are millions of our ships, billions of our people. You're right, Lisa said. We can't defeat you all at once. But we don't need to. We just need to show the galaxy that you can be beaten. We need to prove that the mighty Zephyrian Empire is not invincible. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, Lisa heard the king's guards stumbling around, trying to find her. But she had memorized the layout of the room. She moved quietly toward the emergency exit. The thing about empires, she called out in the darkness, is that they're only as strong as people believe they are. Once that belief is broken, they fall apart from the inside. Lisa reached the exit and opened it. Emergency lighting from the corridor spilled into the room. The king and his guards spun toward her, but she was already moving. Goodbye, King Vextar, she said. Try not to let the empire fall too quickly. It would be embarrassing. Lisa ran through the corridors of the dying ship. Behind her, she could hear the king shouting orders that no one could follow. His communication systems were down. His command structure was broke.